Chains of Fate. In a world shrouded in the mists of the ancient Norse gods, a human slave struggles to understand the difference between servitude and humanity, facing divine trials that challenge his mind, his soul, and his identity. A crash of thunder breaks the eternal silence of the sky. The world is a dark canvas painted with the shadows of the gods. In the middle of an ash-covered field, a man lies chained, his wrists bruised by the cold metal that grips them. His name is Skar, and to the gods, he is only a servant, a tool with no purpose beyond fulfilling his tasks. Skar breathes deeply, his eyes looking toward the horizon where the mountains seem to embrace the sky. "Move these stones to the summit before the sun sets," echoes the voice of Tyr, the god of war, deep and distant like a drum in the distance. A simple command, one more test in the endless list of divine commands that shape his existence. No questions, no complaints. This is how Skar lived, faithful and obedient. How long can obedience last when there is no hope? When the chains are not only of iron, but also of fear and doubt. Skar looks down at his hands, marked with the grooves of years of servitude. A tear he cannot stop slides down his cheek. Still, he rises. "It is my duty," he murmurs, squashing any spark of rebellion within him. As he carries the stones, Skar comes across a strange object buried in the ashes. It is a dark crystal, emitting a faint, pulsing light. The moment he touches it, a vision comes over him. He is himself, but free, unchained, looking at the world with eyes of hope. A mysterious voice whispers to him, "You are more than their slave. Look through the veil of servitude and find your humanity." Skar cannot stop this vision from being etched in his mind. As he returns to his duties, questions begin to arise. What does it mean to be free? Is it possible to defy the gods? Or is he eternally damned? The crystal remains in Skar's pocket, a small but immense weight, as if he carries a fragment of a destiny he doesn't understand. That night, as the Nordic chill envelopes the camp of the gods, Skar sits by a dying fire. The extinguished flames seem to reflect his own soul, silenced, but with hidden embers. His mind returns to the vision, him, free, unchained, gazing at a sunrise brighter than any he's ever seen. What is this I'm feeling? He wonders silently. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the darkness. It's Loki, the god of trickster, with a smile that doesn't reveal whether he's there to help or destroy. Well, well, says Loki, his eyes shining as if he can see right through Skar's soul. What is a lowly slave doing with a crystal like that? Skar remains silent, but Loki leans closer. Did you know that crystal belongs to Fenrir, the wolf bound by the gods? It was her only hope of freedom. Now it's in your hands. What will you do with it? Skar's silence is broken. I don't know what it means to be free. I have always served, as you say, humbly and obediently. Obedient? Loki replies with a sharp laugh. Obedience is just another cage, but if you wish to stay within, do so. However, if you want something more, I will show you a way. Loki disappears in a swirl of smoke, leaving Skar filled with doubt. That night, Skar's dreams are stormy. He sees himself struggling against giant chains, while godlike figures watch him from the sky with looks of mockery and contempt. And then he sees something else. The crystal becomes a beam of light that pierces the clouds, destroying the chains and opening the horizon. At dawn, Skar awakens with a resolve he doesn't fully understand. He takes the crystal in his hand and, in an impulsive act, raises it to the sky. A deafening roar echoes from the nearby forest. Fenrir, the legendary wolf, appears from among the trees, his eyes glowing like embers. "Who calls my prison?" the wolf growls, his voice resonant and full of power. Skar feels overwhelming fear, but he does not retreat. "I am no one. But I want to understand why I am here." Fenrir's roar is not an end, but the beginning of a greater truth. Skar feels the answers he seeks are closer, but he cannot imagine the price he will have to pay. Fenrir's gaze, burning and piercing, fixes on Skar, who feels his soul being stripped of all masks. The air becomes heavy, charged with electricity, as the giant wolf's presence fills the space with an aura of primal power. Skar barely manages to keep his voice steady. I don't want to remain chained. I don't want to be just a slave anymore. Fenrir takes a step forward, each movement shaking the ground. Don't you want to be a slave? Then why do you cling to those chains as if they were part of you? Skar looks down at his wrists, marked by years of servitude. Because I know no other way to live. The gods have shaped me this way. The wolf growls, his voice like thunder. The gods are masters of deception. They convince us that our chains are natural. But the crystal you hold in your hand can break that illusion, if you have the strength to use it. Skar hesitates. His mind is flooded with questions. What will happen if he defies the gods? What will happen if he fails? As he thinks, a figure emerges from the shadows. It is Odin, the All-Father, his black cloak billowing in the wind. His mere presence seems to drain all hope from Skar. Fenrir, return to your prison, Odin commands, his voice full of authority. And you, human, return that crystal before you cause ruin you cannot understand. Skar hesitates, his trembling hands almost dropping the crystal. Odin reaches out for it, but before he touches it, the light from the crystal intensifies. A vision invades Skar's mind, a world in flames, where the gods have fallen and humans walk free but disoriented. The mysterious voice returns. You must choose, safe servitude or the uncertainty of freedom. Skar, in an act that breaks his absolute obedience, grips the crystal tightly and raises it toward Fenrir. If the chains are an illusion, then destroy them. A ferocious roar fills the air. Fenrir lashes out with his claws at the crystal, which shatters into shards of light, illuminating everything around it. Odin steps back, his gaze filled with anger and surprise. Skar feels a surge of energy course through his body, as if the chains that imprisoned him were beginning to disintegrate from within. Skar begins to question what it means to be free, as the shards of the crystal turn into stars that fill the sky, marking the beginning of a struggle that is far from over. Fenrir's roar fades, leaving a heavy silence enveloping the landscape. Skar staggers, the crystal shards scattered across the ground. However, the chains on his wrists begin to slowly disintegrate, as if they had never been real. A mixture of wonder and fear crosses his face. For the first time, he feels something close to freedom, but also a strange emptiness. Odin takes a step forward, his imposing presence still dominant. You made a mistake, human. The world you seek does not exist. Freedom is a dangerous illusion that brings chaos. Skar looks up, defiant for the first time in his life. Perhaps chaos is better than living as a slave. Fenrir, who had been watching, emits a low, mocking laugh. It seems this small human has some fire within him. But do you have enough? Your chains may be gone, but the gods will not let you go so easily. Suddenly, the sky begins to spiral, and a flash of lightning crosses the horizon. Thor descends, hammer in hand, his fury visible with every step he takes toward Skar. Who gave you the right to defy the gods? He thunders, pointing his hammer at Skar's chest. Skar feels that his decision to break the chains has unleashed a conflict far greater than he imagined. But something in him has changed. Fenrir's voice echoes in his mind, freedom is not for the weak. It is for those willing to pay its price. The first confrontation erupts. Thor hurls a lightning bolt at Skar, but he, propelled by the crystal's residual energy, dodges it on instinct. It's not about physical strength, Skar cannot defeat the gods in combat. Instead, he begins to run, not fleeing, but seeking a place where the answers burning in his mind can become clear. Fenrir follows him from the shadows, his footsteps echoing like war drums. The gods pursue him, their voices filled with anger. The forest becomes a labyrinth of mist and ghostly figures, a reflection of Skar's inner chaos. Finally, he reaches a clearing where a massive tree rises, its roots reaching out like welcoming hands. It is Yggdrasil, the tree of life, the core of all existence. Skar falls to his knees before the tree, exhausted. The narrator's voice returns, "Freedom is not the end. It is the beginning of a heavier burden, the responsibility of deciding who you are and what you will do with your life." Skar touches one of the tree's roots, and a vision comes over him. Humans are freed from the gods, but face chaos, war, and confusion. Yet, amid the chaos, he also sees hope, unity, and progress. A whisper fills him with doubt: is this price worth paying? Skar must choose whether he is willing to lead his own life and face the consequences of that choice, or whether he will return to servitude to avoid the pain and uncertainty. Skar, still kneeling before Yggdrasil, feels the tree's roots vibrate beneath his hands, as if the entire universe awaits his decision. The wind blows around him, carrying whispers that seem to come from the highest branches. The words are garbled, fragments of voices that speak to him of freedom, of struggle, and of the price of choosing one's own path. Thor and Odin appear in the clearing. Their towering figures cast long shadows across the ground, as if seeking to crush any glimmer of hope. Fenrir remains on the sidelines, watching without intervening, his eyes shining with curiosity. "This ends now, mortal," Odin says, his voice reverberating like thunder in the air. "Surrender, and the gods may show you mercy." Skar, the chains gone but the weight of the crystal still on his mind, slowly rises. He looks at Odin and Thor with a mixture of fear and defiance. "Mercy? You know no mercy. For years you have treated me as an instrument, not as a man. Today I choose no longer to be your slave." The words seem to shake the air itself. Thor raises his hammer, ready to throw it, but something in Yggdrasil's aura stops him. The tree begins to glow with a faint light, enveloping Skar in a golden glow. A deep, ancient voice emerges from the tree's roots, echoing throughout the clearing. Skar, in a moment of absolute clarity, understands that this is not about defeating the gods, but about finding his own path, even if it is uncertain. He steps forward, facing Odin and Thor, and extends his arms. "I will not fight you, for my fight is not with swords or strength. My fight is within me, and I have won. You no longer have power over me." Odin steps back slightly, his gaze dark as the abyss. "Do you think you can walk free? Chains always find a way to return." Skar smiles, not with arrogance, but with a serenity he's never felt before. "Perhaps they will return, but if they do, I will break them again. Because now I understand that I am not a slave. I am human." The clearing begins to fade as Yggdrasil envelopes Skar in a warm glow. The gods, though still present, seem less imposing, as if their power fades before the conviction of a man who has found his inner freedom. Freedom is not found in the end of chains, but in the strength to break them as many times as necessary.